Engine boost activated. Enemy aircraft incoming.
The farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell.
Enemy aircraft incoming.
The farmer in
Enemy
the dell.
aircraft incoming.
The farmer takes the wife. The farmer
Enemy
takes
aircraft
the wife.
incoming.
Hi-ho, the dairy-o, the
I
farmer
appreciate
takes
it.
the wife.
Capture the
Wife
target
takes
area.
the child, the wife takes the child. Hi-ho, the dairy-o, the wife takes the child takes the nurse, the child takes the nurse.
Destroy an enemy
Hi-ho,
ship.
the dairy-o, the child takes the nurse. The nurse takes the cow, the nurse takes the cow. Hi-ho, the dairy-o, the nurse takes the cow takes the dog, the cow takes the dog. Hi-ho, the dairy-o, the cow takes the dog. The dog takes the cow, the dog takes the
Destroy
dog.
an enemy ship.
Hi-ho, the dairy-o, the dog takes...
Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. The last 2 weeks I have been rather busy, because we've been meeting up with the builders and trying to figure out the details and plans for our new house. And that's probably going to keep me busy still a little bit, but at least the meetings hopefully should be over. So some sort of normal program is about to resume, which means that we are now, well, I'm playing catch up. We'll now look at the ship, the first ship that I really missed last week, and that is rather interesting. The first Dutch ship in the game, the Zeven Provinciën. This ship was named after, well, 7 provinces, which I think is a historic Dutch, like the founding provinces of some sorts of the Netherlands, I presume. I would actually have to look that up, but I think it has a historic significance. The Dutch in the 1930s decided that they needed some new light cruisers. So they started designing something with initially 10 150mm guns, 2 triple and 2 twin turrets. But then, well, the Germans put a bit of a halt to the whole thing. For this one, I am actually going to have to dig up my notes, which is unusual because I usually don't use notes. I usually, if you hear me making a video, that's usually just me talking off the top of my head. And, coming up with stuff as I go along. But in this case, I had to take some notes because this is all utterly confusing. So the Dutch laid down 2 ships, the Zeven Provinciën and the Kiekduin, which was the second ship. The second ship was then renamed to Eendracht. And once the Germans showed up, the 2 ships were then renamed to Kreuzer Holland 1 and 2, 1 und 2. Which literally means Cruiser Netherlands 1 and 2, because, the Germans are an unimaginative folk. I should know, I am one. If you can just find descriptive names for stuff, why not? They also changed the planned layout of the guns to 4 twin turrets. Then, at some point, the Germans were not there anymore, and the Dutch went back to renaming the 2 things to the Zeven Provinciën and to Eendracht. Then they decided that they wanted to name Eendracht de Ruyter. And then they wanted to name the Zeven Provinciën also de Ruyter, and that would be confusing. So they decided that de Ruyter was then renamed to the Zeven Provinciën. So the ship we're seeing right here is not the ship that was initially called the Zeven Provinciën. She started as Kiekduin, then Eendracht, then Kreuzer Holland 2, then Eendracht, then de Ruyter, and then the Zeven Provinciën. And then became the lead ship of her class. So, they gave the British a run for their money with confusing ship names here. But yeah, that's how we got there. These ships were actually part of the Dutch Navy for quite a while. In the 1960s, I believe, they had the 2 rear turrets removed and replaced with surface-to-air missiles. And they were later sold to, what was it? The Peruvian Navy, I believe, somewhere in the 70s, 80s, not 100% sure, later anyway. And then served there for a bit before eventually being no longer there. So these ships did survive the war and actually became quite active. Now, why am I looking at a premium ship? Well, it's the first Dutch ship, but that's not all there is to it. These ships actually, and I mean, you probably know that by now because I'm about a week late with the whole thing, but these ships have a special ship skill. They have an airstrike. So it's not like the ESA where you actually have dive bombers. So you don't have planes on the ship, but you have the capability of calling planes, well, let's be generous and say from some land-based airbase somewhere off the map, who then materialize magically over the target. Let's say they've been flying extremely high, so you couldn't see them, and then they're diving down. And then do sort of like what the British bombers are doing with the level bombers, like the things you find on the Indomitable or on the other British carriers. They drop bombs on the target. But you don't have an actual, like ship consumable itself, that then the planes have to return to the ship, and then you have you have to fish them out of the water if they float planes, put them back on the deck, rearm them, and then get them flying again. You don't have that sort of cycle time, but you do have a cooldown on these airstrikes that you can call in, and we'll see the details of the whole thing. But what else can this thing do? Well, it's a tier 8 cruiser, so she has 3 engine boosts. She has 4 defensive AAs out of the box. This is the Def AA2. Which just doubles both the large and small caliber. This will become important later. And she's got a radar. And this is radar 2, so 8.1 kilometer range. Let's look at a comparison. And the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed what I've done with this ship setup. But don't spoil it for everybody else. But you might see where I'm getting at. Why am I comparing her to the Cleveland and the Seattle, by all means? Well, first of all, these ships also have radar. And they are support cruisers. And the Zeven Provinciën is sort of a support cruiser, I would say. She is pretty effective against destroyers. And the other support thing that support cruisers usually do. So let's stop beating around the bush and let's just look at some numbers here. So the Cleveland, being an American light cruiser, obviously significantly better armored, has a bit more health, and is generally more maneuverable as well. The Cleveland has more guns and they do more damage. The Dutch has a little bit longer range, but it's not super significant. She does get a faster reload though, at 5.5 seconds on these 152mm Bofors guns. No secondaries, no torpedoes. Here it gets a little interesting because, well, the Cleveland has a pretty good AA for tier 8. I would say she's got a very good AA for tier 8. The Zeven Provinciën, yeah. So I've actually looked up what this ship had as an armament. If we assume that this is the post-war, the post-war setup that we're seeing here, she would have had, before we installed the surface-to-air missiles, she would have had 4 57mm Bofors guns and 8 40mm rapid-firing Bofors guns, for a grand total of 510 on the small caliber AA. 510, yes, in tier 8. And that's before the defensive AA goes up, all right? Well, this small caliber AA also has a range of 2.4 kilometers. Now, the large caliber AA isn't grand, and I can't remember seeing anywhere or looking up if the 150s were dual purpose. They might have been. The Seattle, having more guns there, actually has the better, has the higher value. But 4.2 kilometers is not something to sneeze at, really. And the concealment isn't half bad either. Then the other thing here that we see are these airstrike bombers that come in. So you get 3 airstrikes. So let's take a short detour before we look back at the AA. She gets 3 airstrikes and they recharge. Right, so you start out with all 3 of them. There's a cooldown between them, and then once you've used it, it takes a while to recharge, and then you can use it again. So effectively, you start out with 3 that you can sort of drop in rapid succession, and then you need to wait for the first one to recharge, and then a second one to recharge, and a third one to recharge. Each strike has 6 bombers that come in, and each of them drops 4 bombs. So if you've seen this on World of Warships PC, it's the cute little, it almost looks like pumpkins that they're dropping. It's like this whole cluster drop that comes raining down on the poor unsuspecting target, but across a relatively large area. So you're not going to get all of these on target. They don't do an awful lot of damage individually, and they have a 12% fire chance, which isn't really great either, but the range with 9.9 kilometers isn't actually terrible for this. And obviously, given that it's an airstrike, you don't necessarily need to have line of sight or even line of fire to the enemy that you're striking with said airstrike. We'll see that in action later. But let's get back to the reason I have the Seattle here. Because let's compare the Zeven Provinciën and the Seattle. Because the Seattle has a small caliber AA of 275 with a 1.8 kilometer range. She does have more damage on the large caliber AA, but the same defensive AA skill. The Zeven Provinciën has a better AA than the Seattle. This thing is an absolute monstrosity against aircraft. It's plainly disgusting, the amount of AA firepower this thing has. It's not quite Worcester, but it's close enough, because you're in tier 8 and you're not going to be hitting tier 10 carriers. I've had an Indomitable, and if you've ever played the Indomitable, that thing has almost indestructible aircraft coming in at me, and she just wipes these wings clean out of the sky. It's literally hilarious. There's one bug at the moment, and I hope they fix that, because while it's hilarious and really reinforces my point here, it's also not right. She gets credited all aircraft kills in the game, not just her own. So for every Zeven Provinciën game that has a carrier, you will get a Clear Skies medal at the moment. So yeah, that's been reported, and they'll hopefully fix it. So in the battle results screen, I'll have to backtrack and see how many planes we actually shot down. But yeah, this is like literally right. With the defensive AA up, she does 260 damage with the large caliber AA, which is less than what a Seattle does. But she's got a 2.4 kilometer range and does over 1,000 points of damage with the small caliber AA. So, seeing that, the very obvious choice for me was to go for the full meme build. In first slot, you have a pretty good turret rotation. So I have actually used the main battery mod 3 here, but yeah, I could also have... actually, let's switch that over just to see it. I haven't actually played with this, but I could also have used this one. I did want to remain slightly competitive, so you could do that as well. And go for the large caliber and small caliber AA range. And then, obviously, small caliber AA damage, because that's 10%. So that's 51 extra points of damage on that. We'll take it. And 10% more range on these two. And obviously you want the AA specialization as well on this thing. So if we're looking at that, after these slight modifications, we now have a large caliber AA range of over 5 kilometers. We're not doing an awful lot of damage with that, but we've got an almost 3 kilometer range of the small caliber AA, which does almost 600 points of damage in the base. And you get to double that if you flip this defensive AA on, which you have 4 of by default. So this is a hilarious shit. Now, obviously, if you were not going for the meme build, because you're not always hitting carriers. If you're playing a game without carriers, there go your modules. A more sensible build would probably be the precise aim. The gun turrets are very, very squishy, so you lose them quite a bit. They rotate very nicely, so you don't really need the main battery mod 1. You could even argue that you just want to use the auxiliary armament, honestly, even in a standard build. And then in the second, you would probably switch for propulsion. So that's one option, to go propulsion and steering. and that gets you into a setup that because the rudder shift is on the slow side, as we've seen in the comparison earlier, so that would give you a 7.3 second rudder shift and a 13-second time to full speed, which is a boon for maneuverability. So this would be more of the HE spammer sort of setup that you could do. The other thing you could do is you could trade the propulsion mod for the steering and trade the steering for the concealment mod, because she's got a pretty good base concealment, and with that you get down to a concealment of 6.8 kilometers, which isn't quite destroyer levels, but it's sort of British light cruiser levels, and in combination with the radar you can actually do some really, well, interesting things. Plus, you can obviously use the airstrikes without being spotted. Now, the airstrikes are not going to be doing an awful lot of damage on their own, but don't ignore them. They're quite hilarious. But yeah, for me, I have actually played with this setup here. So we're going to put it back just so that everybody knows. And yeah, I could have even still put this one in. If you're getting the historical camo, because it's a premium ship, a lot of people will, you get large caliber AA range, which is much appreciated. More hit points, mine battery range, and better surface detection. So it's all good things. You could obviously pick one of them. I'm pretty sure one of these has... yeah, you could take this one, the Crossfire, for better AA range. But yeah, just for more hilarity. The commander skills, nothing really super surprising here, because you don't have an awful lot of skills that need boosting. We don't know yet what the eventual Dutch tech tree line is going to look like and what skills these things are going to have. Probably going to get the airstrike, but there's nothing. I don't think there's a skill here that actually affects this. So I have the relatively obvious choice of the air defense expert, which makes sense here. But other than that, exploit weakness makes sense, because you will rely on fires as the main source of your damage, because the damage output of the main guns isn't the greatest, and you have the chance of setting fires together with your planes as well. Okay, and yeah, do notice that I've also put the extra AA ammo in for an additional 3% AA damage, because it stacks. Everything stacks at some point. It just gets hilarious. Anyway, let's have a little bit of a look what we can get ourselves into with this ship. In the first battle, it's a 4v4, and we're playing Epicenter on Pacific Islands. We're up against an Essex, so tier 9 carrier, Bismarck, Amagi, and Kagero. I'm not counting the bots, because, the bots are just cannon fodder, but unfortunately, they're difficult to avoid these days, because the matchmaker is still extremely aggressive in getting people into games quickly, even if it means that half the enemy team is full of bots, and so is the friendly team. But at least, see it as a 4v4 with some additional cannon fodder in the middle. That doesn't mean that the bots are harmless, but, they're not usually as dangerous. Anyway, what we'll do is, we've got a Kagero of our own, I believe. We'll be giving air support, or air defense support, really. And with the engine boost, this ship is actually reasonably quick. So the friendly carrier is scouting, the enemy carrier is not. That already tells us a lot, and we may not have to fear the enemy carrier quite as much, because a carrier player at tier 9 who isn't scouting in the opening of the game and is potentially not as... is either having a bad connection, which means that, we're... they're not going to be, especially in a carrier, not going to be as reactive, or is, doing repositioning or something. So there are coming some fighter planes. We're not going to be using the defensive AA for that. But if they're coming in my way, no, they're deciding to just defend. There's a bot Takao over there. We're just gonna grab the center cap, and I do realize that I am still unspotted. Oh, there's the enemy Kagero as well. So maybe we can do something about the fighters. Yeah, the enemy Kagero, so over to the armor piercing, but the Kagero doesn't look like he's interested in coming here. So back to the high explosive it is then, and we'll deal with the Takao. Now, one problem that you have with bots with the airdrop is that bots often make unrealistic and improbable maneuvers. So as you can see there, the bot just suddenly decided to make a sharp turn, and all these airdrops have been missing. But we can still set him on fire and try that again. But now he's doing a sharp left turn, so I'm not sure. I have no idea where the bot's gonna go. You do see that it takes about 6 seconds or so for the drop to come in. So you actually have to aim that properly. And there we got some bomb hits in, but 2 out of the drop, so it wasn't an awful lot. But it was enough to kill the cargo. Okay, that's not the cargo, the Takao. That's that thing out of the way. Now enemy Bismarck. Okay, so let's try to set some fires. And there is the cargo, but the guns are not the most precise, even with the precision module built in. I can't reach the Bismarck because I only have a 9.9 kilometer range with these things. So I'm going to try and hit the bot Izumo just to stop it from cupping the center cup. I can't reach the cargo either. And that drop's also going to miss because the Izumo was just doing some unrealistic maneuvers over there. Let's see if we can do something about the Bismarck. He looks like he's about stationary, and he's not looking my way. So let's give it a shot. Drop the wings. I think he just started accelerating. Yeah, so this is probably going to be missing as well. Yeah, you do need to figure out your lead, and they're not particularly good against destroyers. But, you know, if you stagger them like this, they are going to... Okay, the Bismarck Damacont, so another try. You stagger them like this, they are going to... you're going to have one available pretty much all the time. So you can kind of constantly drop these things and try to set some fires. Doesn't always work, but, you know, you can try. Now, I need to get out of here because that's a Bismarck, but the Bismarck's probably going to be dead before he can do something about me, and he's not looking at me anyway. He's looking at the destroyer, so that should be a dead Bismarck. Back to the armor piercing. There's the Kagero, and yes, I have seen you. That's why I'm here. Okay, you're trying to hide. Not gonna happen. Radar up, and we're going after the Kagero. It's 4 versus 3, so this is not yet decided, but we're holding the whole capture circle. I'm just prospective dropping a bomb drop over there, but the cargo wasn't going that way, so it's not gonna hit. And there's the enemy carrier as well. So now we're going to shout very loud, such that everybody sees us, and go chasing after these guys. So engine boost up, guns out at the cargo, we've got the armor piercing loaded, and just make sure, because we don't have a hydro, and there come the enemy planes. Unfortunately, I don't have the defensive AA ready, but yeah, it should be fine. There goes 1, there go 2, there go 3, and there go 4, and that was that wing. So yeah, SX not happening. So now we're bombing the carrier, because, you know, can't hit the cargo with these things anyway, so I might as well keep shooting at the cargo. There are some fighter planes, and we have set a fire on the SX. There come the torpedo bombers again, defensive A up, there goes 1, there go 2, there go 3, and that was that. So, end of that wing. Yeah, good luck with that. So another drop. There comes some more cargo torpedoes. Might be taking one. That's fine. Can take that. Cargo is still running furiously away, dropping more bombs onto the SX, and I think the SX at this point has stopped trying to do anything with planes against me. The problem is he's not going to be doing anything with planes against our destroyer anyway, because we've got fighter cover. And yeah. How are we at now? 17? Yeah. Any planes he throws my way, defensive AA or not, are dead. And this is a tier 9 carrier, so I'm just mentioning that for completeness sake here. Because I have a better AA than the Seattle. Yeah, now they've run out of map, so another airdrop on the SX, and see if we can get the cargo killed before we're running out on points. But I think we're winning on points before I can get these kills. Yeah, sorry. What a shame. Anyway. We have done, I think, 21 plane kills, and that's against a carrier who has waited until 2 minutes into the battle to launch the first planes. So yeah, like I said, there's a bug here that you get credited all plane kills, but at least it tells us how many plane kills there were in total. So over 45, so we've done almost half the plane kills in this game. We could have easily done the 45 if the carrier had focused on us in the first place. Let's do that again. And here we are on Haven in domination. It is once again a 4v4, and once again a bottom tier battle. No carrier this time, so the meme setup isn't quite suitable, and the more sensible setup would have probably been better here. We're up against Izumo, North Carolina, Key, and Mogami. And we do have an Erland ourselves, which is great, so at least some early cap control should be possible. But yeah, with a stealth build on this thing, or that would not be a terrible thing to do as well. You can set this ship up in a wide variety of builds, whatever really strikes your fancy. So let's see where the Öland goes. Öland goes A, cool. So I can go B. Just waiting for the engines to run up to full speed. There we go. Engine boost up. The engine boost doesn't do anything until the engines are up to full speed, so you want to wait that long usually. And we're just going to be heading out into B Cup. I've got the HE loaded because most of the enemy ships are battleships, and the AP isn't going to do an awful lot against them. And I think the only destroyer in the enemy team was a bot, so I've got nothing to be afraid of here. Let's see if we can grab ourselves B Cup. And once the bots are out of the way, the real battle begins. So see, it's not that battles that contain bots are necessarily boring. You know, it's an actual challenge by itself. Okay, there comes the bot Izumo, and there's also the North Carolina. I'm not sure if that was a bot as well. Yeah, that's a bot as well. So 2 bots in battleships here. Let's drop some planes in the general direction, and there's a player Izumo as well. So I'm going to stop here because I'm going to start taking fire. And just back off and open up against the player ship. Can't quite reach it with planes, so I'm going to drop the planes in the way of the bots. But yeah, as you can see, the bots are just wildly maneuvering as they are wont to do. So these are going to miss again, but we can try again. And you can effectively constantly have these drops going. Let's see if that goes any better. Not really. We've got 1 fire, and we've got another drop coming in. But yeah, the Izumo is turning on a dime, and obviously this isn't going to work. So unfortunately, we do need to get these bots out of the way first before we can actually deal with the player, just because they are in the way. And even their bots, I'm in a light cruiser, and North Carolina armor piercing can do very, very short work of me. The other thing you got to be aware of the bots is that they have no turret rotation time. So normally, when a player, I would look at the turrets where they're pointing to see where they're shooting at. And that doesn't work with bots because they can rotate the turrets 180 degrees in absolutely 0 seconds. Okay, that's a triple perma fire because bots don't damacon, so we can let that burn, but I've got nothing better to shoot at, and North Carolina is shooting at me, so bow in and full reverse it is, and just dodge as you can and do some more damage. But hopefully we can get that thing out of the way, because we are behind on points. We lost 2 ships already, and we haven't killed anything. So that thing needs to go. Okay, there's a bot Yugumo, and then we can finally, it's out of range, the Izumo's out of range. Back to the armor piercing, let's clean up the bot Yugumo. I'm not gonna waste my bombers on it because they're not gonna be able to hit it anything. Anyway, the other thing that you might notice with the bombers is that they give you an elevated view. So even just by switching to the bombers, you will get an elevated view that allows you to look to get a better perspective. Now bow in towards the Izumo, because that thing's more dangerous. The bot's not going to torp. It's not going to torp anyway. So we'll just get that thing killed. Back to the high explosive. Full stop. See if we're in plane range. Yes, we are. Izumo is slightly in reverse and otherwise occupied. So I might have had to drop that a little bit further back, but yeah, that's 2 fires, and he damacons. So now is he still going reverse? I think he is. So let's drop a second strike onto it, and you can effectively constantly keep these airstrikes up. And the Izumo has stopped. There's another airstrike. No fires this time, but yeah, the Izumo's dead. So okay, Gascogne takes him out. All right, that means we're 4 versus 3. We have lost our destroyer, so one of the ships here is a bot still. There's a full health key on the other side. We are ahead on points by now, but the battle is only half through. And yeah, the Mogami evens it out, so now it's 3v3 and there are no bots left. So we're going to start focusing our fire on the enemy key and seeing if we can get some fire set on that thing. First airdrop off. No fires on that, but we keep spamming with the guns. We're currently undetected because the island's in the way up. No, not anymore. We're seen now. So just reversing, keeping the distance open. Use your range. That's 1 fire. Is he damaconing it? Yes, he damacons it. So engines ahead. Need to get into cover and keep firing the guns here and see if we can set perma fires. 7 seconds until my next airstrike's off cooldown. So if we can get some permafires against that key, that'd be much appreciated. And yeah, even though I can't shoot at him with the guns from this position, I very well can airstrike him from this position. So next customer, North Carolina. Key can't shoot at me. Mogami is shooting at me. So And that's a double perma on the key, so the key is dead. Mogami is shooting at me. North Carolina is more dangerous. My 2 battleships are, I don't know what they're doing, but I'm standing alone here, so supporting this this capture circle. Okay, that's the key dead as predicted. I'm not sure if the North Carolina has shots at me, but there are going to be Mogami torps in the way as well. So let's get an airstrike. I think he's stopped. Let's get an airstrike onto him and see if we can set some fires on that thing. I'm not sure if the North Carolina can hit me from over there. Because I do have an island in between. I don't think the airstrike has done anything, and I might be taking 1 Mogami torp here because, yeah, the rudder shift, like I said, with the meme build isn't particularly great. Yeah, the North Carolina can actually hit me from here, so yeah, we need to change our angle, full-on angle against that thing, and then get the next airstrike out on them. He's turning, I think, right a little bit, so let's set it up like that. See if we can still get shot in. Okay, he can't target me anymore. I can still shoot at him. And yeah, I can airstrike him. I don't need to have line of fire on that thing. So he's coming around the island though, and he can just one-shot me from there. So we're gonna go full ahead and just wait until the next airstrike comes off cooldown, because I think the Mogami is now coming under fire from our own battleships here, now that there's nothing else for them to shoot at. And we're just lining up the next drop against the North Carolina while being unspotted and hiding behind the island here. And I think we may have angles at the Mogami still. So let's see. And that's another fire. I'm not sure if he Damacon the fire earlier. No, he did Damacon that one. See if we can still do something about the Mogami from here. But yeah, I am unspotted, and I'm just gonna have to sail around these islands here. Airstrike is still 6 seconds off. Might be. Yeah, I don't think I have enough time to get another one in, so I might just drop it on the Mogami because he ran into an island, but I don't think I'm going to get another airstrike in because the battle is about to time out, but I think we've got this on points. Yeah, we do have that on points. So this ship is really, really fascinating in that it allows you to do these kind of things. Like you can, if you're low on health, right, and you're coming under concentrated fire, you can literally hide behind an island, stay unspotted, and just keep airdropping people. They can't do anything about it. I mean, the AA is going to work, but you know, because you have 3 charges of the airdrop, you can constantly get another one going. So it's really hilarious the amount of annoyance that you can be, or of a nuisance that you can be. You can also be just bowing in reverse, use the forward turrets to try and set some fires if you don't have any islands to hide behind, and then just keep airdropping people. Because you don't need to be broadside on like with torpedoes. You don't have angles. You can do the airdrop from any angles. So you can do that, and you can also just play more traditional support cruiser because you've got the radar and you've got the defensive AA and you've got you've got a tier 9 plus AA in tier 8 in this thing. So it's a really, really powerful ship and a really, really interesting mechanic, I find. So great fun to play this thing. Can thoroughly recommend. I think she's in a sonar sweep event of some sorts. So yeah, there's the Gambly thing, but I'm sure this is not going to be the last Dutch ship we're going to see. And I'm really, really curious to see what the tech tree line is going to be looking like. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.